What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Debate Mates. I am Matthew Swanenberg, and today we are doing part 2 of the 6-part series, what every NBA team's goal should be for the second half of the NBA season. Yesterday, we did the Eastern Conference Atlantic Division, the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, Brooklyn Nets, Philadelphia 76ers, and the Toronto Raptors. Today, we're moving on to the Southeast Division, home to the Atlanta Hawks, Orlando Magic, the very juicy Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler, the Charlotte Hornets, and unfortunately, the Washington Wizards. I think this is the first time in Debate Mates history that we're going back-to-back jacks, back-to-back banger videos on back-to-back days. So you got to make sure you like the video and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get right into it, starting with those Atlanta Hawks. They're the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference at 22-19. This is a team that for a really long time has just been the definition of mid. They always finish around 41-41, somewhere in the play-in, the 7 seed through the 10 seed. They never make any noise in the playoffs, except for one year, one aberration where Trae Young led the team to the Eastern Conference Finals when the man Kevin Huerter was still on the squad. Since then, though, it's been a lot of just middling teams that aren't good enough to compete, aren't bad enough to get a really good pick. Last year, they got really lucky in the lottery against all odds, somehow got the first overall pick, which they used on Zachary Risachet. This team makes sense, though, for the first time in forever. This is my favorite roster they've ever put around Trae Young. They've got a lot of long defensive-minded wings around him who can also play make. Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, DeAndre Hunter's having a career best season. And then down low, you've got Onyeka Okongwu, who's only 24, who is also having his best season of his career and has sort of supplanted Clint Capella as the number 1 center in the rotation. I think if I'm this team, my goal for them is just to trade for picks, recoup some of the assets you lost in the DeJounte Murray trade. That trade turned out to be a big loss for the Hawks when they got him over from the San Antonio Spurs. I think people thought that DeJounte Murray was going to kind of be what Dyson Daniels is, a souped-up version of him. Excellent defensively, but much better offensively. And he was really neither of those things. Him and Trae Young could never really coexist together. And DeJounte Murray's defense really suffered as a member of the Atlanta Hawks. He wasn't the same player that he was on the Spurs defensively, and offensively he could play at his best when Trae Young was hurt. And this team, like I said, everybody just kind of complements each other perfectly. You gave up too many picks for DeJounte Murray, and you got a lot of vets who you can trade to maybe get some of those picks back while still building around that young core that I mentioned. You can trade guys like Bogdan Bogdanovic, Clint Capella, who, like I said, has sort of been supplanted by Onyeka Okongwu as the best center on the team. And then the guy who I think has the most value in the league is Larry Nance Jr. Larry Nance Jr. is a 5-man, a stretch 4 who can shoot the 3 ball, who defends. That is something that every team can talk themselves into, every team needs, whether it's a team like the Thunder or the Cavs, if they swing and miss on Cam Johnson, who I talked about a lot yesterday as sort of the crown jewel of any team's trade deadline plans. That's a guy who could really move the needle on maybe a championship contender and Larry Nance Jr. and a team like the Thunder or Cavs that's maybe a little desperate to improve and get that one final piece could shell out a couple of picks for him. Clint Capella, Bogdan Bogdanovic have a little bit less value, but any picks you can get are great. The Hawks don't own their own first-round pick until 2028, and you're not going to get anything super juicy for the guys I mentioned, but anything is better than nothing. The Hawks, like I said, have so many good young players to build around. Onyeka Okongwu is 24, and he's under contract till 2028. Trae Young is 26, he's under contract till 2027. Dyson Daniels is 21, he's under contract till 2026. Jalen Johnson's 23, I think he might make the All-Star team this year. He's definitely deserving to do so. He's under contract till 2030. Zachary Risachet, the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft, is 19, under contract till 28. And DeAndre Hunter is 27, under contract until 2027. This team, for the first time in a while, like I said, makes a whole lot of sense and is set up for a bright future. You just have to recoup some of those losses, try to trade for any picks that you can get, and continue to build this cohesive team around Trae Young. This is the first time in Trae's career where it looks like he is willing to take a back seat because he trusts his offense. He trusts Quinn Snyder and the offense that he has built around this team, or built for this team, where Trae Young can sort of take a step back. He can trust Jalen Johnson to initiate the offense. Dyson Daniels can initiate the offense. We all know that Dyson Daniels is an absolute game record defensively. I think he and Jalen Johnson are also 2 of the most improved offensive players in the league. Dyson Daniels isn't a great shooter still, but he can create. Johnson can create. Risachet can create a little bit, and I think he has a bright future, maybe not as a superstar, but as a sort of super role player, a lengthy guy who can shoot the 3 a little bit, who's a really good defender. Onyeka Okongwu and Clint Capella's numbers are basically identical when you look at on-off, net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating, so you're not upset at all about parting ways with Capella. He's a little bit redundant with Okongwu. And then DeAndre Hunter is putting up a pretty solid showing for sixth man of the year. Peyton Pritchard has got to be in the lead right now, but DeAndre Hunter has come on really strong recently. You build around those guys. You build around the great length that you have around Trae Young. Trae Young is going to always be the superstar. He's going to be the face of the franchise, and now you've got guys that really complement him, as well as a coach that is getting the best out of this offense and the best out of this defense. So this team, I think, for the first time in forever, I'm excited about them. They have a bright future. They're building the team the right way, and they just have to go out this trade deadline and try to get back some of those picks, and then give guys like Vit Krejci and Keaton Wallace an opportunity to continue to grow. Keaton Wallace had a great game. I think he's averaging 27 points per game in the month of January, in one game only, but so he spent a lot of his time in the G League, but that's a guy who has NBA potential. Vit Krejci is this is going to sound weird, he's one of my favorite players in the league, honestly. He's just a good defensive player. He hustles. I saw him in the G League last year, and it's just cool to see a guy like that make it into the NBA and have a solid impact on his team. He's good defensively. He's decent offensively. He's got good size. He can handle a little bit. He plays with a lot of passion. The Hawks just have a lot of good young players, a lot of good young long players, and that's the recipe for success nowadays, is good positional size and somebody that can create, somebody that can take the burden off of everybody else's shoulders. Trae Young's still the guy that can catch the grenade late in the shot clock and make something happen, and now he's got other guys that he can sort of trust to do the same thing. So this team's got a bright future. Get some of those picks back, and if you fall back because you trade some of those vets to the 8 seed, the 9 seed, the 10 seed, it's not really that big of a deal. There are too many teams who stink in the Eastern Conference, frankly, for the Hawks to get that down low, and it doesn't really matter if they're the 6 seed or the 7 seed, because you're not beating any of those top-tier Knicks, Celtics, Cavaliers in the playoffs. So this year's kind of a no man's land year for the Hawks. They're not too good. They're not too bad. Just try to get some of those picks back. Keep being all right. Make the play-in and see what this team's juice is in the playoffs. Maybe they overachieve, and maybe we see that this team has one or two minor flaws that they need to fix that become more evident in the playoffs. So I like where this team's headed. Get some picks back. Moving on, we got the Orlando Magic. They're 7th in the Eastern Conference at 23-20. I think everybody was really high on this team coming into the season. Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner were two guys everybody expected to be all-star caliber players, and they have been, although they've been very injured this season, both of them going down with oblique injuries. And I think another reason people thought this team was going to be really solid was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He's a career around 40% from three shooter. He's a guy that was instrumental on the Lakers championship team, the Nuggets championship team, but this year the three ball has just left him. He's only shooting 32% from three. So because of his struggles, because of the struggles of guys like Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black shooting, and because of the lack of stretch fives that the Magic have on their roster, Mo Wagner can shoot it a little bit, but isn't killing it from out there. Wendell Carter is injured a lot, and Goga Bitadze just doesn't have it in his game at all. This team just needs to add some shooting. Their goal has to be to improve the offense and improve that spacing. So come playoff time, Paolo can cook a little bit. Franz Wagner can cook a little bit. The court is going to shrink, and right now they don't have anybody to really space it, anybody consistently who can knock down three-pointers. They are the 29th best offense in the league, but the third best defense. That's a recipe on the defensive side to win you a couple playoff series, but on the offensive side, that's a recipe to not even make it out of the first round or out of the play-in tournament, honestly. They're going to keep a lot of games close, but they just need something to push them over the edge. So teams can't key in on Paolo. So teams can't key in on Franz Wagner. Those two players are too good. They're too talented. But when everybody's looking at them, when all the eyes are on them because you can sag off of Suggs and Black and the big men, then there's just no opportunity for these guys to really cook and get in their bags. And they're both so talented at creating shots for themselves and for their teammates. But come playoff time, they're going to be guarded differently. Teams are going to key in on them. You need a Cam Johnson, a Malik Monk, a Zach LaVine. These are the guys that I have written down as sort of the dream targets this trade deadline season. Cam Johnson is a guy who, if maybe the Cavs and the Thunder strike out on, could fall to a team like the Magic, who maybe are a little bit more desperate and give up a little bit more for someone like him because they think that they have a real window here. Malik Monk, if the Kings, they're on a great trajectory right now after they fired Mike Brown and got Doug Christie in as the interim head coach. They've been playing really good ball. Malik Monk's been a big reason for why their team is clicking on all cylinders right now. So I don't know if he is available for trade, but if the Kings fall back down to earth or realize, okay, this might be lightning in a bottle, we have no chance of continuing this come playoff time, let's still sort of shop around a little bit, then I would love to see him on the Magic as a guard that can create shots and create a little bit of offense, whether it is off the bench or in the starting lineup. And you can hide him defensively with a guy like Jalen Suggs, who's one of the best in the league at shutting down the other team's best offensive guard. Zach LaVine has been tied to the Magic basically as long as he's been a Bull, it feels like. This is a guy that's shooting 50% from the field, 40% from three. He's one of the best offensive players in the league this season. You got him under contract till 2027, and he's averaging 24 a game. I would love to see him on the Magic as a two guard. Maybe he can key in a little bit more defensively there. He's so athletic. He's got all the physical tools and athletic tools necessary to be a great defender. You can kind of hide him a bit on the Magic, like I said about Malik Monk. But I think Zach LaVine does have the potential to be a really good defender in this league. Pair him with Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. He doesn't need to do as much on offense. He can catch and shoot. Like I said, 40+% from three. He can attack. He can play make. This is the ultimate perfect fit for the Orlando Magic. I don't think it happens, though, because the Bulls are very stuck in their ways. I don't even know if they're going to make any big moves at the deadline. And even if they are, I don't know if the Magic have the assets that other teams looking for LaVine will have. But he's a dream for the Magic, a perfect fit. Guys like Brandon Ingram are people I think they should stay away from. He'll be a free agent after this season. The Pelicans don't want to pay him. I don't think the Magic will want to pay him either. They have too much money tied into Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and Jalen Suggs to give any money to Brandon Ingram, especially with his sort of redundancy being a forward who would be behind Franz Wagner and Banchero in the pecking order. If the Pelicans do try to move on from some of their guys, though, during the season, CJ McCollum could be a guy I would love on the Magic. Another scorer who can come off the bench and not be relied on to do too much, but is sort of a case of emergency bucket getter who can take some of the pressure off of Banchero and off of Wagner. De'Aaron Fox is sort of in the same window as Malik Monk. Yeah, if the Kings fall back down to earth, he could be gettable. And then sort of more role players who could potentially fit on the Magic. Kelly Oubre, like I said yesterday, the 76ers should trade some of these veteran guys. He's not a great three-point shooter, but has been better in his career. He could fit on the Magic. Terry Rozier, we'll get to the Heat in a minute. They kind of stink. I think it'll be a little bit of open season for them, or at least it should be. He would fit well on the Magic as a shot-creating guard. And then Lonzo Ball, he's a great defensive player, a great shooter. He would fit perfectly on this Orlando Magic team. You don't know what you'll get out of him over a full season because it's been so long since he's played consistently. But I would love him on the Magic as someone that can create, someone that will be able to create open shots for Paolo and for Franz, an elite defender, and a really good catch-and-shoot three-point guy. So this team just needs to improve their offense, improve their spacing. It's a really easy fix because there are so many shooters on the market and there are so many teams who are looking to be bad to get Cooper Flagg, who are going to want to trade their veterans. Maybe I mentioned Larry Nance Jr. That could be a guy even that comes onto the Magic and just helps to improve them a little bit. Just need a little bit of shooting to push them over the edge, get that offense from 29th to 15th to top 10, and this team has the recipe to make a pretty deep run in the playoffs, I think. We've got the Miami Heat now. They're 9th in the conference. They are exactly 500, 20 wins, 20 losses. Their goal has to be to commit to the future and don't trade Jimmy Butler to the Warriors and don't trade Jimmy Butler to the Suns. Nothing against either of those teams, but Jimmy Butler's put the team in a really bad position right now because he won't sign the extension, and the Warriors just don't have enough. I don't like the package. I don't like the package from the Suns either. Why would they want Bradley Beal? They need to look for the future because this team is not contending for a championship this year. Beal is not an asset that is going to get you anything in the future. His deadline or his value has gone down increasingly every single year. Jonathan Kuminga is sort of in the same basket as Brandon Ingram. If you want him, wait, because the teams that they're on don't want to pay him. He didn't sign an extension with the Warriors because they didn't want to pay him that much. He'll be a free agent after this season, and you can throw whatever you want at him come the offseason. So I wouldn't trade for him either, and Wiggins and Looney or whoever the big man is that comes over in that deal as well. Not needle movers for this season, not really needle movers for future seasons. I just don't like that move or either of those moves at all from the Heat's perspective. What I do want them to do is go get Zion Williamson. I don't know what the Pelicans' plan is with him. They came out and said Zion is late to everything. We're suspending Zion because he was late to a team flight, and they said this is a repeated offense. Would you say that about a guy you're trying to trade? Probably not, because that drives down the value a little bit. You're painting him as a locker room cancer, a guy who doesn't really care about his team. So I don't know what the move is with him in the future, but I'd love to see him on the Heat with Pat Riley in this system, see what he can become. Jimmy Butler, I think, is one of the most overrated players in the league. He's honestly one of my least favorite players in the league. Of course, he has led the Heat to 2 championship series, to 2 finals. But the first one in the bubble, Tyler Hero was incredible, Goran Dragic was incredible, and we were all convinced that Bam Adebayo was a future superstar. The second one, Caleb Martin almost won Eastern Conference Finals MVP because he went nuclear against the Celtics. Point being, he's never really done it on his own. Yes, he's a 16-game player who raises his level come postseason time, but he's not good enough in the regular season, and he doesn't have the accolades to justify that, I don't think, or to justify that identity. And really, I think all that he cares about, all that matters to him is his identity and his pride. He wants people to think he is the baddest, hardest working man in the league, and he wants people to think that he is one of the best players in the league. And the Heat don't think that, and I think his pride is hurt. He got called out by Pat Riley in the offseason. Pat Riley said, "You don't come to games prepared. You're hurt all the time. You don't play in the playoffs. You show up preseason to media day and you treat it like it's a joke. You had your emo phase and all of that. Like, who are you for this team? Because you're not the man. That's Tyler Hero going forward, and you're not the hardest working dude on the team anymore. You treat this all like it's a joke, and you think you're going to just show up in the playoffs and it's all going to be all right." And it wasn't last year. They got knocked out pretty easily by the Celtics in the first round, and Jimmy Butler couldn't even play. He was hurt. So I think his pride is just hurt. I don't know if teams are going to really want to trade for him. You've got the Warriors and the Suns. Other than that, I don't know who's desperate enough to trade for a guy who hasn't even signed a contract extension yet, who could be a one-year rental. He's put the Heat in a really bad position to get any sort of good assets in a move. So it's going to be difficult to even get a guy like Zion, potentially, if the Pelicans were willing to trade him. You just have to look at, if you're the Heat, whatever offer puts you in the best position going forward. Not whatever offer gets Jimmy Butler to the team he wants to get to. He has no trade clause. He has nothing he can do to really leverage this situation other than say, I'm not going to sign a contract extension, which he already hasn't done. So if I'm the Heat, trade him to whoever gives me the best package. I don't really care what Jimmy Butler's thoughts are on the move, but you're not going to really get a good package either way, I don't think. And if I'm Jimmy Butler, I understand I understand where Jimmy Butler's coming from as well. I don't want to just paint him as the complete bad guy in this situation. Pat Riley has done a terrible job capitalizing on this championship window. They went to the finals twice, and guys like Damian Lillard, Kevin Durant, superstars that request trades, it feels like number 1, 2, or 3 on their list is always the Miami Heat, and the guys never end up on the Miami Heat. Donovan Mitchell or Bradley Beal, 2 more examples of that. So I can understand why Jimmy Butler, aside from his pride being hurt, is also mad at this front office and what they've done to maximize this team. They've been passed by every single year by other teams in the Eastern Conference, and they've just sort of sat by the wayside and hoped that consistency and a good 16-game run in the postseason would knock them over the edge, and it just hasn't up to this point. So the bridge is burned. Jimmy Butler is going to play. He's going to make it super awkward. I don't even know if they move him, honestly, because I don't know what the market for him is. If you can move him, just try to get any future assets you possibly can and make this Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo's team moving forward. These 3 guys already aren't on the same timeline. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero are much younger, and at this point, Tyler Hero does look like the better player. He's going to be an all-star this year, and he's 100% deserving of it. So build around those 2 guys. Jaime Jaquez Jr. has taken a step back. Nikola Jovic is maybe not the guy we thought he could be, but still. See what you have in these young guys. Try to get any sort of future assets you can for Jimmy Butler and just look towards the future. We got 2 more teams in the Southeast. I'm going to kind of just group them together. We've got the Charlotte Hornets, who are 13th in the conference, and they're 10-28. The Washington Wizards are 15th in the conference and 6-34. They both just need to stay bad and finish as bad as they can. The Hornets stay bad, get a good pick. That is what I wrote as my goal for them. Wizards finish worst in the league and try to move some of your assets. The Hornets already traded Nick Richards for Josh Okogie in 3 seconds. They're moving in the right direction, getting rid of some of their decent players, their vets who maybe don't fit in with where this team is headed going forward. Get Cooper Flagg on this team with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a great team to watch going forward with Mark Williams also at the 5. This team stinks. They're going to stink this year no matter what really happens at the deadline. I think they mostly stand packed because they don't have many assets who are going to get much back. Maybe you trade a Josh Green, but you're not really getting too much for him, and he's not costing you too many losses. So just keep doing what you're doing, Hornets. Finish as bad as you can, and maybe you get the number 1 pick or one of those top picks. And the Wizards, try to trade some of your vets. Malcolm Brogdon, Jonas Valanciunas, Kyle Kuzma, Sadiq Bey. Just get anything you can get, and like the Hornets, be as bad as you can. Try to get the number 1 pick, the number 2 pick, one of those good, juicy picks. Like I said yesterday's video, so many franchise-altering guys in this draft. Try to get your hands on one of them and be as bad as you possibly can. And you're doing a good job of it already, so just stay the course. And that will do it for my Southeast goals. Next video, we'll finish up the Eastern Conference with the Central Division, the Bucks, the Pistons, the Bulls, the Cavaliers, and the Indiana Pacers. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that one. And until then, I thank you guys for watching. See you next time.